All right, okay. So, on the introductions, you have said a lot and you repeated doctorate several times, but that's just a certificate of research and reading a few things until you are even more confused. But I'll just give a highlight. I'm working for international NGO that operates in Zimbabwe. That's where I spend most of my time dealing with capacity building and just making sure that young people are plugged into things that are happening. But alongside that work, I also spend a lot of time with young people outside my work, providing them with the tools and resources around community organizing, because I always emphasize that we are we often call ourselves activists, but oftentimes what we need is the organizing part. We need to be community organizers, organizing fellow young people towards the things that we like the most. So I can say that I spend most of my time helping young people to be community organizers. So that's, I think, a brief introduction. The name you have said already, Abel Sibanda, and I have a background a lot in understanding the civil society itself, understanding social movements, understanding organizing, and all that. So I think that's more about me. But let me just dive deep a little bit into the question that we have posed. And for me, the key part is, what can young people do, especially in reflection of several other generous reports that have been released in the past few years, which have shown that there is a breakdown in our general public administration, the civil service part of it, because most of the issues that have been highlighted, apart from misappropriation of funds, apart from direct thievery that can be highlighted from there, there is also some level of it's either incompetence or at times just lack of care, recklessness of public servants in terms of administering or taking care or utilizing public resources. I'm highlighting this because they are easy things that are often highlighted and often getting the attention. I remember there's an issue that Yai was pushing around in terms of vehicles which were procured and not delivered. I remember people were up in arms about Air Zimbabwe aeroplanes which are not being accounted for. We talk about land which was bought and not claimed. But all those issues get a lot of attention, but there are underlying issues that just to show that the civil servants, not even the politicians, the big guns, the civil servants themselves who administer some of those things, and sometimes it goes based to how they were recruited, the politicization of recruitment, especially on much senior posts, how that affects the core of our bureaucracy. And at the end of the day, you find that there is recklessness in the administration of public resources. So I want to pivot a little bit just to young people. The first thing is about paying attention. I like the conversation when we were talking, when we started this conversation, reflecting from the 2026 national budget. But the problem that we always have as young people is that we focus on the budget at this time of the year when we are already planning for the next year. But the priorities are already made throughout the year, throughout the years. And once those priorities are set, sometimes there's little that we can do when you are close to the budgeting process. So the first and most important thing is for us to pay attention, not in October and November when the budget is about to be processed for the next year, but throughout the year to influence the conversations, the highlight the important parts that we need to be addressed. I'm saying this because once that budget is appropriated for 2026, the same things that the Auditor General has been highlighting around procurements, which do not have any paperwork backing, procurements where goods are paid for and are not delivered, and some just recklessness where there are no reconciliations of transactions that are done in a particular government department or a parastatal or a local authority. This shows that the resources that are allocated are then abused, if not abused in terms of people taking them home, they're also lost. And you know who loses? It's us young people who are going to pay more in taxes and who are also going to be forced to pay the debt that is being acquired to cover some of these costs. So the highlight is for us to pay attention. I'm happy because the young people are leading these conversations, and young people are bringing together other young people to lead these conversations. But the problem that we have is that we have competing issues that are already pressing. We talk about our own livelihoods. We need to put food on the table and have a lot of other things that we aspire for. I think the conversation on state accountability should not be separated from our own livelihoods, because sometimes the connection gets a little bit distant, and that is why young people sometimes disconnect from it, because we are not talking about the direct food issues, direct livelihood issues. So we need these conversations. Let's connect them to our day-to-day life. Let's not overcomplicate the conversation. So I think that's what I can leave with you for now. Let's pay attention throughout the year cycle. There is a lot that is happening before the budgeting process started, and the annual budgeting process started. There is a lot of influencing around where the money goes, so pay attention. But also pay attention when the funds are appropriated, because from the OAG reports, we have noted that resources are leaking, the resources are abused, the resources are stolen. So let's also pay attention. Every 30 June, the OAG is supposed to produce the reports for the previous year, and make sure that you also pay attention to those conversations. And those who are leading conversations, we have taken it upon themselves, including young people on this cause. Take your time to read through and highlight issues, but do not just highlight issues as complex as they are. Try to connect them to our daily struggles. That's how young people from every corner of Zimbabwe, every corner of our ghettos, can be plugged in. That vakomana mari yabiwa, guys, the money has been stolen, guys, the funds are being abused. So I think this is the major highlight. Let's pay attention. Let's connect these struggles to our daily struggles. And I would talk a lot more about the infrastructure itself that enables this. But I think let me allow the conversation to proceed. At some point, we can continue to highlight some of these gaps that young people have to make sure they are plugged in. For example, the Chapter 9 law that the Constitution says should be in place to make sure that we protect these public resources. We also talk about the government not showing interest in the public finance management bill that lapsed during the 2023 general election. It is yet to be reintroduced, but the PVO bill was introduced, and now it was signed into law. But priority is not about protecting resources, but in trying to police the people. So we need to pay attention to this conversation. So I'm bringing this back to you, moderators, and we continue the conversation. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. And I think the first thing is thank you for hosting us and have this conversation. So I just want to start from where Chantal left around the gap between the policies and what's on the ground. But I also want to highlight the gap between us young people on this platform, the young people that are engaged in these conversations, and the bigger numbers of people who are not engaged in these conversations. So, my primary message that I want to leave with young people here is that the conversations that we are having, let's make sure that we find a way other young people who are often not engaged in these conversations. In Madagascar, in Kenya, in Morocco, in Nepal, things don't happen because a small group of people understand certain things, small group of people are paying attention. Things happen when the majority feel like their livelihoods are threatened, their lives are threatened. But for us, we are being threatened, our lives are being threatened, but we are just a group of people who are not translating the cause of our struggles into something that can make young people rise up and say, enough is enough. Let's stop this behavior. Let's stop abusing state funds. Let's stop stealing money. Let's stop abusing citizens. So for me, it's about how do we package all this to reach those young people on the street corner, those young people who are street vending like we do during the day, all of us. But we are engaged in these conversations. How can we translate it to make sure that they feel like when a budget is not showing what we have contributed during consultations, then it's a livelihood problem for all of us. When the government is not coming up with a public finance management act that is aligned to the constitution, that makes sure there are consequences for abuse of public funds, it's a livelihood issue for every vendor in the street. It's a livelihood issue for every young person in the ghetto. So for us, let's translate these conversations and make sure that they reach to every other young person and make it personal, that public resources are ours. They are not supposed to be abused. When we say things during budget consultations, or if we aspire for something in Zimbabwe, it has to be reflected in our budgets, and money has to be used, as Comrade Mlambo was saying, money has to be used as budgeted for.